From the Gemara in Sanhedrin, Daf Tzadik Zayin and Avodah Zarah Daf Tes, we see how the world, there's a process to the world. And the Gemara says as follows. The Gemara gives us some details, some information about how the world works. Number one is that the Gemara says that Shis Alfi Shnin Shisha Alafim Shana Sheshas Alafim Shana Havi Alma. The world is for 6,000 years. That's number one. It's a time of 6,000 years. That's the existence of the world, and then there's 1,000 years of charav, of destruction. And then the Gemara goes on to actually divide these 6,000 years into 3 equal parts. First 2,000 years are years of Tohu, says the Gemara, then 2,000 years of Torah, and then 2,000 years of Yemei Mashiach. And for the first 2,000 years before Avram Avinu came around, the world was void. There was a voidness of any holy Teichen in the world. There were some tzaddikim, but as a whole the world was void of an understanding, a knowledge, and an acknowledgement of the existence of Hashem. And then, when Avram Avinu came along, we know that Avram hischil lahayir. When Avram came, the pasuk says that there was es hanefesh asher asu b'charan. The people who Avram Avinu taught about the Eibishter while he was in Charan was what began to make the world be a world which didn't have voidness anymore. And that's what started the 2,000 years of Torah. And like the Medrash says in Bereshis Rabbah, Parsha Beis Eis Gimel, the Medrash says that Ad Avram haya ha'olam misnaig ba'afela. Till Avram Avinu, the world was conducting itself in darkness, similar to the concept of toyu, of voidness. But when Avram came, Mishabah Avram hischil lahayir. When Avram came, he started to shine the light of Hashem through teaching people about Hashem, which is the concept of Torah. And when did this happen? Right at the end of year 2000, when Avram was 52 years old, and it started the next set of 2,000 years, began the Shnei Alafim Torah, the 2,000 years of Torah. And then, for the next 2,000 years, until the end of the Tkufa of the Tanoim, of the Chachmei HaMishneh, that was the 2,000 years of Torah. And as we see that until the end of the Mishnah, the halachas that are ruled by all the Chacham until the end of the Chachmei HaMishneh have a very special strength, something which doesn't exist as much as the generations went on from there. Of course, we have many halachas coming after the Chachmei HaMishneh, but the strength that the Chachmei HaMishneh have is something which is unparalleled in the next generations after the Chachmei HaMishneh. And of course, after the Chachmei HaMishneh until today is the Tkufa of Yemei Mashiach, the time period when we're waiting and we're working towards the coming of Mashiach. But then there are those who ask, when we look around at the world, it doesn't really look like a world of Yemei Mashiach. The first 2,000 years was a world of Toyu, it makes sense. The second 2,000 years was a world of Torah. We see how Torah was developing in the world. But the last 2,000 years doesn't really seem to be a world of Yemei Mashiach necessarily, with all the Tsar v'Yisurim going on. One of the answers which is given by Rabbi Yitzchak Abarbanel in his Sefer Yeshua's Meshichai, Iyun Harisha in Perek Risha, he says as follows: the meaning of Yemei Mashiach is that Mashiach could come in these 2,000 years. In other words, it doesn't necessarily mean that Yemei Mashiach, that Mashiach is going to come. We have to be Zeicha for it. If we're Zeicha, then this is a time when Mashiach could come. And according to that, we have to do our best to be Zeicha in order that now Mashiach could come. And he compares this to Yemei Sageshamim, to the winter months, when there is rain or snow and so on. The reasons why it's called Yemei Sageshamim, not necessarily is it going to come down every day, not necessarily will the rainy season show such weather every day or even at all, but the rainy season is the time when it could be the rainy season. That's why it's called the Yemei Sageshamim, that's why it's called the rainy season. And likewise is with the 2,000 years of Yemei Mashiach, the same concept, that this is a time when Mashiach could come if we're Zeicha, if we merit. The Maharal Prague, in his Sefer Netzach Yisrael, Perek Chav Zayin, he reflects the same concept in other words. And he says as follows: if the Yidden would have been Zoiche for the coming of Mashiach. They would have merited the coming of Mashiach before this set of 2,000 years, before the third set of 2,000 years. The Geula could not have come, the redemption could not have come. But now that we're in the Tkufa of the 2,000 years of Yemaisa Mashiach, now if we're Zeicha, Mashiach could come. And that's what it means, Yemaisa Mashiach. Yemaisa Mashiach means that now is the time which is ready, which is prepared for the coming of Mashiach, and we have to do our part to be Zeicha to it. And if we're Zeicha, then we will turn the potential of Yemaisa Mashiach into actual Yemaisa Mashiach with the coming of Mashiach Tzidkenu.